So today we're going to talk about the true probabilities of when you're opening packs in eFootball. We're also going to use the code to make simulations of what would be the expected cost when you're acquiring legends. So if you want 1 legend, 2 legends, 3 legends, it'll tell you the expected cost of getting either of those. And we're also going to find the optimal switch points between which strategy you should use when opening packs. So should you use a 10 player spins or 900 coins, or should you not use the discount and go for 100 coin spins for 1 player at a time? Because there is a switch point where one strategy becomes more optimal, where you no longer need the discount. Depends on how many players are left in the pack, but it also actually does depend on how many legends you want. So if you only want 1 legend, you have to deploy a different strategy than if you want 2 or 3. So to go to the top, you can see here, if we run the code, this one only takes half a second to run. Obviously there's a 100% chance when we have the number of spins as 150, the number of players that start in the pack 150, and also the number of cards we're looking for 3. Now I've gotten legends in 1 spin quite often actually. I've gotten Baresi, Rumi, Cantona, a big time Messi, and there's 1 or 2 others, I think Van der Vaart as well. So if I wanted to know the odds of that, so when I open those packs, the odds of me getting any legend in that 1 spin were only 2%, and obviously there's a 0% chance of getting 3 legends in 1 spin. If I wanted to know what was the odds of getting 1 specific legend, so when I opened the Messi pack I wanted 1 specific big time, or the Rumi I only wanted him, it was only a 0.67% chance of getting that specific player in that specific spin. I also got Berbatov this week in 11, so the odds of that were 7%, and then that was just for Berbatov though, just so the specific cards are the legends you're targeting. If you're targeting all 3 legends, if I wanted to get all 3 in 11 spins, well, the probability of getting 3 of them, or 1 of them, sorry, increases to 20.55% from 7%, because there's now 3 legends we're looking for, not just 1. But the probability of getting all 3 is still very low, 0.029%. So this tool is very good for understanding before a pack maybe how many coins you have. Let's say you have 60 spins and you want only 2 legends, you can just make change the parameters like so, and then it'll tell you your odds. So if you had 6,000 coins, and this will be important for when the Hullet, Rijkaard and Van Basten pack comes out, or the Messi, Suarez, Neymar pack comes out, and maybe you only want 2 of them. If you have 6,000 coins, 60 spins, you'll have a 64% chance of getting 1, but only a 15% chance of getting both. Also, if you want to know what's the chances of getting only or spinning a player on the last spin, it's a 2% chance, because obviously we would subtract 100% from this drawing all 3 specific cards in 149 spins. So there's actually quite a big chance. 2%, I don't know, that seems large to get players in the last spin. Actually, when I spun for Vieira, I got him in the very last spin, and Maradona and Pirlo, I think one of them took me to the last spin as well. Okay, so the next piece of code, this one you can run, actually it doesn't actually take that long to run. It'll simulate over we've decided 10,000 trials. They'll do 10,000 trial runs and simulate what the expected costs are when you're opening packs. So if we wanted to get all 3 legends in 100, obviously it starts off at 150 spins. Want to get all 3, you'd expect it to cost you 11,346 coins with the 1 player at a time strategy, and 10,563 with the 10 players at a time strategy. So you can see down here it took 8 seconds to run. Obviously this will be in the description if you want to run it yourself. So there is a discount if you do 10 players at a time, but it's not actually the most optimal way, because we'll do it in the next section, the switch points between when you're going to go from 10 players to 1 player at a time. So this can be useful for if you want to change like if you already have opened the pack, and let's say you've used all your coins in your account. Let's say you had 4,000 coins, you did 40 spins, and you only have 110 players left. You can kind of gauge what would be the expected amount you would have to add onto your accounts to get it, because this is obviously over the long run. Obviously you can get lucky and carry coins over to another pack, but in the long run you want to know what your odds are overall. So if you had already opened 40 players and you had 110 players left in the pack and you didn't get any of them and you wanted all 3, you would expect to be spending 8,300 coins on the 1 player at a time strategy, and just under 8,000 coins. So they're very similar for all 3. If you only wanted 1, we can change it here, and it'll show you our odds if you only want 1 specific legend. And you can see here when we decrease it to we only want 1 player in the pack, the expected cost also decreases to about 5,500 coins. Now every time you run this code you will get slightly different results. You can increase the number of trials, number of simulations to get more consistent results in theory, but if you go to a crazy number like 10 billion simulations, Google Colab won't let you do that. It'll let you run the code, but the amount of time it takes to run the code won't increase. So what's happening is they're just not doing those extra simulations, and it actually leads to more inconsistent results. So I have found 15,000 seems to be the sweet spot. Even 25,000 I've noticed is starting to be a bit more inconsistent. So I've been trialing and error here, and I do feel 15,000 is the most consistent. And you can see here the results are similar to where we had it the last time we ran the cell. So you can see here the difference between the strategies is very minimal, but there is a switch point that it becomes a lot more cost effective between strategies. So that'll take us on to the next section of video, which is the optimal switch point. So this code will run a simulation as well. It has 1,000 trials, and it does take 20 minutes to complete the execution. So I wouldn't recommend running this code. Just use my output. When you click on the link, it should have my output. So I do have all the outputs here, and they are presented graphically as well. It's a little bit hard to read it, so I do have another one here, so it'll be easier to see. But I need to look at this one first because there is something that should be abundantly clear, but just in case anyone isn't aware, obviously at the very start you should use the 10-player strategy. So the vertical axis is the expected cost of coins, the number of players is the players remaining in the pack, and the title is if you want 3 legends use this one, 2 legends use this one, and 1 legend use this one. So you can see for all 3 situations at the very start you should obviously use the 10-player strategy to be more cost effective over the long run. But the graphs do intersect at different points, and we'll go down to the other graphs to show you exactly where those points are. So if we look at the situation where there's 3 legends in the pack, you can see here that when there's 80 players in the pack, the 1-player strategy is more expensive, and then the 10-player is more cost effective. But that switch point does happen. You can see by 35 players it's kind of clear that the 1-player strategy is more effective because the blue line's below the red. When you go to like 40 to 60, it's kind of, it's wishy-washy, it's either one way or the other. So in that scenario, I'd recommend just going for 10 players because you might get lucky and you're using the discount, you might get lucky and stop early. For when there's 2 players left in the pack that you want, the switch point comes a little earlier actually. So it was abundantly clear at 35 and 3 legends. For this one, it's actually clear at, I'd say, about 45. That's when you can see it's obviously cheaper to use the 1-player strategy, and then it's more middling up until about 73, I think that is. And then by 75 plus, it's obviously the 10-player strategy looks more cost effective. And then what's really surprising is if you only want 1 legend in the pack, you should switch to the 1-player strategy a lot earlier. You can see here from let's say 55 to 60, you can see except for these 2 points here, and again every time you run a simulation you'll get different results. So if you run the next time, these points might not be as close. You can see here the general trend line though, that's what we should look at. You can see even here, look, the gap is larger here, it's shorter here. It's just a kind of variation in the simulation. But you can see the general trend line. The 1-player strategy is cheaper at about 65, 60 players, like consistently. So if you only want 1 player in the pack, you should definitely use the 1-player strategy a lot earlier than you might think. Now, if that's the end of the video, if there's anything you want me to add to this code, I can do so. Any features you want to add it, because I do think there is a lot of misunderstanding in the odds people have, the expectations they have going into packs, especially with the MSN pack and Hulla pack that a lot of people are saving free coins for. I think they should understand the odds they have going into that.